My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 32, and 11 months ago, my husband's family stopped saying my name at dinner. They just said her. I run the finance department at Halstead & Cole, the same firm my sister-in-law Renata had been trying to get into for 2 years. She finally landed an interview there in March. What she didn't know, walking into that building, was that I was the one reviewing the shortlist. I never told her. Some things you let the universe hand you quietly. Renata got the job. Junior analyst, my department. I trained her myself for 6 weeks. Patient, professional, never once mentioning that I could have blocked her application with one email. I thought maybe finally we'd find some peace. I was wrong. It started small. A comment in the break room about how some women chase careers instead of keeping their marriages together. Then louder, at Sunday dinner, in front of my husband, David. At least I didn't get left at the altar of my own life. My divorce from my first marriage was 6 years old. She brought it up like it happened last week. I said nothing. I've had practice. Then came the Thursday I wasn't supposed to hear anything. I was in the server room fixing a printer jam, out of sight when Renata walked past with our director, Mr. Whitfield, both of them unaware I was 3 feet away behind a filing cabinet. Honestly, Renata said, laughing that laugh she saves for cameras, Claire's a mess since her divorce. Distracted, sloppy, everyone in the department knows it. If it were up to me, she'd be gone. You're out, Claire. That's basically what I told HR already. Mr. Whitfield didn't laugh. He went quiet in a way I recognized immediately, because I make people go quiet like that for a living. Numbers don't lie, and neither does silence. Renata, he said slowly, you do know who signs your paycheck. She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because neither of them knew I was still standing there, printer jam forgotten, holding a folder that had her entire performance file in it. And what was inside? That folder was about to end her career before she ever finished mine. I stood behind that filing cabinet for exactly 4 more seconds before I stepped out. Renata's face did something I'd never seen it do before. Recalculation. The same look my ex-mother-in-law used to get when she realized. I'd heard every word she said about me at Thanksgiving. Claire, she said, bright, too bright. We were just finishing my sentence for me, I said. You're out. I heard that part clearly. Mr. Whitfield looked between us, and I watched him do the math a director does when he realizes he's standing in the middle of something that isn't office gossip anymore. Ms. Bennett, I didn't realize you were behind the cabinet. I know. I held up the folder in my hand, the one I'd been carrying to file before the printer jam interrupted me. This is actually good timing, since I was about to bring this to you anyway. Renata's eyes went to the folder like it was a snake. She knew what it was. 6 weeks of quarterly reconciliations she'd been submitting under my sign-off. Numbers I'd been quietly rechecking every single time because something about her figures never sat right with me. Not sloppy, precisely wrong, in the same small direction every month. That's my file, she said too fast. It's the department's file, I said. You just happen to be in it, extensively. Mr. Whitfield held out his hand, and for a moment nobody moved. I thought about David, about Sunday dinners, about the 6 years I'd spent being polite, while his sister rehearsed her cruelty, on me like it was a hobby. I thought about the folder in my hand and how easy it would have been, so easy, to slide it back into the cabinet and pretend the timing hadn't lined up. I gave it to him instead. I was hoping I was wrong, I said, and that part at least was true. He opened it right there in the hallway, flipping past the first 2 pages before his expression changed entirely. Renata started talking, something about context, about how numbers get complicated, about how I'd always had it out for her. Mr. Whitfield wasn't listening anymore. He looked up at her, then at me, then back down at page 3, the one with the vendor account routing to an address that wasn't. Halstead & Coles. Renata, he said quietly, I need you to come to my office, now. And Claire, he paused, folder still open in his hands. I need you to tell me exactly how long you've known. Since Tuesday, I said. 3 days. Mr. Whitfield's jaw tightened. Renata opened her mouth, but he raised a hand without even looking at her. And for the first time in 11 months, I watched someone else silence her instead of me. 3 days, he repeated. And you were bringing it to me today regardless of what just happened in this hallway. Yes, he believed me. I could see it settle into his face, the same way I'd watched numbers settle into place 100 times. When a discrepancy finally resolves itself, and Absolutely, that you found the truth of it. Renata found her voice again, thinner now. David is my brother. Claire, think about what this does to the family. You didn't think about the family, I said. When you told your boss I was a mess he should fire, you thought about it exactly as much as I'm thinking about it now. Mr. Whitfield closed the folder. My office. Both of you. 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like the longest of my career. I sat at my desk, hands steady on the keyboard, doing what I always do when the ground shifts. I kept working. Because Abe Whitfield? No. Because my own quiet rule has always been. Don't stop moving until you know exactly where you're standing. David called before I even reached the office door. Renata must have phoned him the second she left the hallway. Claire, what did you do? His voice wasn't angry. It was scared, which was worse. I did my job, I said. The same job I've done for 6 years while your sister called me. Broken at every dinner you sat through, and said nothing. Silence on his end. The kind that has weight to it. She's saying you set her up. That you'd been waiting for a reason. David. I stopped in the hallway outside Whitfield's office. Hand on the door. I found out about the routing account on Tuesday. I gave your sister until Friday to fix it herself before I said anything to anyone. She spent those 3 days at my dinner table calling me a disaster instead. I didn't wait for his answer. I pushed the door open, and Renata was already sitting across from Mr. Whitfield. Mascara smudged, the folder opened between them to a page. I hadn't even shown him yet. The one with dates going back 4 months. Long before I ever suspected anything. 4 months. Which meant this had never been about me at all. 4 months. I stood in the doorway doing the math I do best, and it landed somewhere cold. You started before I ever caught anything, I said. Before the interview. Before I even approved your hire. Renata wouldn't look at me. Mr. Whitfield answered instead, quietly, like a man reading a verdict he didn't want to read. The first misrouted transfer was dated the week before her final interview. Claire. Her references vouched for prior finance experience at a firm that, as of this morning, doesn't exist. The room went very still. I built her a career, I said. And I heard my own voice from somewhere far away. I trained her myself. 6 weeks. Every afternoon, patient. Because I thought if I was good to her, eventually she'd stop needing to be cruel to me. Claire, please. Renata's voice cracked into something. I'd never heard from her. Not performance. Not pageant polish, just fear. I needed this job. My last one ended badly, and nobody would hire me with that on my record. So I fixed my resume a little. That's all. The routing thing, that's a mistake. An old vendor account I can explain. You can explain it to the fraud examiner Mr. Whitfield is already calling, I said, and I watched her understand. Finally, that the folder in front of her wasn't a rumor she could talk her way around at Sunday dinner. Mr. Whitfield stood. Renata, HR will need you to surrender your badge and laptop today. Legal will be in touch about the account discrepancies. He turned to me, and something in his face had changed completely from the man who'd laughed off office gossip an hour ago. Claire, I owe you an apology. I don't have time to give properly right now. Later, I promise you that. Renata grabbed my sleeve as security walked her out, the same grip my ex-mother-in-law used to use when she wanted the last word. David will never forgive you for this. I looked at her hand until she let go. David didn't build this, I said. You did. Every transfer, every lie on your resume, every dinner you spent, calling me broken instead of telling your brother. The truth about where you actually worked before this. I didn't do this to you, Renata. I just finally stopped being quiet enough to let you finish. She didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. My phone buzzed in my pocket as she disappeared down the hallway. David. 14 missed calls. And one text that changed everything I thought I knew about that Sunday table. Claire, I need to tell you something about Renata before this gets worse. Something I should have told you years ago. I called David back from the parking garage, engine off, hands finally shaking now that no one was watching. Tell me, I said. He was quiet for a long moment. Renata didn't lose her last job over personality conflicts, like she told everyone. She was let go for the same thing. Falsified numbers, a vendor account nobody could trace back. My parents paid the company off quietly, so it wouldn't follow her. I knew Claire. I've known for 2 years. I let you train her anyway because I thought if she had you watching over her, she couldn't do it again. I sat with that. 6 years of Sunday dinners. And this was the first true sentence anyone in that family had ever handed me. You used me as her babysitter, I said, and let her call me a disaster in exchange for it. I know how that sounds. It sounds exactly like what it was. He didn't argue. That, more than anything, told me everything I needed about the year ahead. The fraud investigation took 6 weeks. Renata was charged with falsifying records and wire fraud across 2 employers. My name appeared in the file exactly once, as the analyst who flagged the discrepancy 3 days before anyone accused me of anything. Timestamped, undeniable. Mr. Whitfield promoted me to department head in October. In the announcement email, he wrote one line that I've kept pinned above my desk since. Some people are quiet because they have nothing to prove. Turns out that's the most dangerous kind of colleague to underestimate. David and I are separated now, not because of Renata, not really, because 6 years of silence taught me what he actually thought a wife was for, absorbing what nobody else would. I don't hate him. I just stopped waiting for him to choose me at that table. My mother-in-law called once in November, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Renata says none of this would have happened if you'd just been kinder to her. I trained her for 6 weeks for free, I said. I said nothing for 6 years while she called me broken. I don't know what kindness looks like to your family, but I've run out of it to give. I hung up, and for the first time in 11 months, the silence on my end of the phone didn't feel like something I was enduring. It felt like something I'd finally earned.